Hello, iPoker VIP viewers. I'm doing commentary for a 400 NL session played on Party Poker. Uh, I'll be referring to the tables in the following order. Table 1 will be the top left, Table 2 will be the top right, Table 3 will be the bottom left, and Table 4 will be the bottom right. I played the session some time ago, actually quite a while ago in Party. So we'll have to see if the new me agrees with all the plays the old me made. On table 1, it looks like I'm going to overbet here. This player that's called up a small blind versus my early position open is a fish by the look of the stats and by the look of his stack. I think the money just goes in a bit easier if I overbet the flop, and I don't really think it affects his calling range too much. I think if he has any piece of this board, he's kind of calling regardless of the size, and I'm pretty happy to get all the money in here against this player. On table 3, it looks like I'm considering a 3-bet. I think I should be pretty wide here in position against a cutoff open. My value range is pretty wide too, meaning that I can incorporate quite a lot of bluffs within my 3-betting range. Table 4 opening Jack 3 suited, pretty much opening any 2 suited cards from the button, any ace, any Broadway, a couple of like 8, 9, 9, 10 offsuits. It's probably about 53%. There's a limit. Okay, let me pause. There's a few hands going on here. Table 1, early position opened. We're 150 BBs deep. I think this Jack should definitely be a flat here pre-flop. There's not much more I can say to that. We just don't want to get all our money in. We don't expect to get bluffed too often by Larry D. With his gun range, it's fairly tight. Doesn't have too much air in it that can be bluffing us pre-flop. And we flop top set. So with this stack depth and this board texture, we're definitely going to be looking to check raise the flop. So he bets 20 into 26. Any check raise between 70 or 80 will make it easy enough to get the money in with 2 more streets to play. I make it fairly small here. I think we can go bigger. I think his calling range here is quite inelastic too with my bet sizing. Let's say if I bet 150 here, there would be 450. Yeah, we could still get the money in here, but I'll have to be pretty big. I like a bigger check raise on this flop. Here we get a very good turn for us. It not only cuts down the number of combos that we could possibly be playing for value, such as pocket nines and Larry D spots, which means we're going to get lighter cooldowns. But it also gives him the occasional 3 of a kind with a hand like 9-10 or 9-8 that he peeled the flop with. And so we just stack off against a wider range here with the nuts, which is obviously great for us. So Larry D, I think he shows down. Yeah, shows down aces here with the club. I really don't like his play. I think if he's going to continue on the turn, he should just probably be looking to call and then call again. He's got the ace of clubs, which is going to remove a fair bunch of bluffs that we're going to have out of our small blind calling range pre-flop. I don't think we're too wide pre-flop with too many unpaired type hands. So when he's got a blocker to the nut flushes, our range is going to be heavily more weighted towards value. Bottom right table, New York, 19 54, Nilson. He's pretty fishy by the looks of his stats, even over a small sample. He's limping obviously in the cutoffs, so all those things force us to believe that he is a weak player. I take a shot at this pot on the flop, and I'm pretty much committed to betting 100% of turns after I bet this board. With the pot being so small, he's just going to float the flop incredibly lightly, even with a whole bunch of bitter ace-x type hands that he might have limped in. So I'm pretty much looking to barrel any turn card and reevaluate on the river, most likely giving up, as we kind of expect him to fold his really weak hands by the turn. But we get raised there, and obviously we just have to fold. Raising pocket tens on the button in table 3. In the big blind we have Mount Bud 11 over 600 hands. He's playing 50-30. I'm not sure if I played maybe some heads up against them, and he's actually a reg whose stats have just gone up, kind of because all of the heads up parts, or if he's just a super aggro fish that's playing a ton of hands pre-flop. But I suppose we'll have to just wait and find out as the session goes on, and we can get some more information about him. He looks like he's auto-topping up though, so that kind of leads us to believe that he might not be a weak player, but we'll have to see. A7 suited in the top left. I think we get 3-bet here on the spot. Yeah, that's right. It's a pretty good hand to go ahead and 4-bet. It's got blockers to some combinations that to some combinations of his value hands that he can be 3-betting us with. We're not committed to a call after we put in a 4-bet. He's probably folding a decent amount. Yeah, I think 4-betting there is okay. I think folding there is okay. It's I've got a fairly balanced range with my 4-bets that I feel is unexploitable, and so unless I know too much about a player and how often they're going to be 3-betting in the spot, I kind of just tend to fall back in my ranges. Which A7 suited is not included in. Pocket 8 is a bit of a marginal call here, pre-flop on table 3. I think the cutoff is just somewhere around like pocket 7s, pocket 6s. It's just, there's a lot of players to act behind us still. If we get squeezed, we can only fold. On the flop, we're going to get put into a whole lot of tricky situations where we've got really weak bluff catches against a pretty strong range overall. Such as this example here, we kind of just have to let it go. We're also calling pre-flop there with hands like queens, sometimes jacks and tens, almost always. So if we are looking to peel the flop there with a hand weaker than an ace-x, then we can always use those hands to peel with. Table 2, pretty dry board, good for my hand to c-bet, got good backdoor draws, good backdoor equity against his calling range, and on a board that shouldn't connect to them too much. However, we're faced with a raise here, and I'm just going to go ahead and fold, I think. I tend not to mess around with people too much in those situations. I prefer to just cut down my c-betting range, and in future to kind of punish their bluffs a bit more if I suspect that they are bluffing me. Otherwise you get into a bit of a game of chicken where you're kind of testing each other to see who has anything and who doesn't, and most probably the person in position is just probably going to come better off in those situations than the person who isn't. Table 2, I elect to 3-bet someone who seems to be isolating the fish quite wide. His range should be around like 30, 35, maybe 40% even. I think a 3-bet here is going to show a good amount of profit. New York is just going to be limp folding, a lot of weak hands, and Blue Friday is just going to be kind of handcuffed to a fold with most of the stuff he decided to isolate with. We get calls 4-bet here, and so Larry D either has a legitimate hand or he's paying a lot of attention, and he can kind of pick up that our 3-bets are far more wider than they're supposed to be here, and just kind of capitalize on our lack of strong hands in the spot. We don't know, and shoving seems pretty spewy and a bit fancy, so I think we should just fold. Table 1, I decide to go and lead into the pre-flop raiser here. My thinking at the time was that I've got a backdoor nut draw, I've got a gut shot to the nut straight, and I've got a hand that has fairly decent equity on this board, and I didn't think that I didn't want to check fold at a facing a c-bet. However, I think we should just capitalize on our relative position here. What I mean by that is Larry D is going to c-bet, and then this Conkelberry to our right is going to have to act first before us. And then if Conkelberry calls, we can just call behind. We definitely should be calling behind. And if Conkelberry folds, we can actually just give up our hand in the spot, because we don't expect Larry D to be betting into this flop too widely, again, into 2 players. This board connects with a lot of the calling range out the blinds and a lot of his opening range. And so I think we make a pretty good fold with a good amount of information. So yeah, I don't like my lead in this spot. I don't know if we should be leading with any hands actually. I think we should just always try and capitalize in our good relative position there. Pocket nines, open early, get a call from New York in a small blind. I don't think his calling range is particularly strong here. He's probably calling any 2-gappers, any 1-gappers, any broadways, any suited broadways, any suited ace. Against that range, there's a good amount of value to be extracted with the c-bet here, and if we are behind to any of his hands, such as a 10-jack or queen 10 or something, we've still got some decent amount of equity in the pot to improve against a better hand. The turn's pretty interesting. We still do beat a fair amount of his range. He could call us again with an ace-7, ace-9 type hand, like a gut shot with the ace high that he's taking the showdown, or he's just trying to spike because he's a fish. And then anyway, queen peels off in the river. This is one of the worst cards, I think, for us. I think we value cut ourselves by betting again here. And yeah, that's basically it. I mean, 8x might fold again. 8x might fold to another bet, and queen jack and some gut shots get there that we expect him to be feeding with. Excuse me, but here's 9-10 and whatever. We're just good there so often by betting on the turn. It doesn't matter. So I haven't been playing much on Party. The session was actually recorded quite a while ago. I've moved over to PokerStars. Games are software is just so much better there. There's more games. There's less bots. Yeah, I just think PokerStars is far better than they got far more to offer than Party has. Although I'm pretty sure the 400 NL games here on Party were really soft and are quite a bit softer than the Stars games. I think the Stars games are just like the ratio of regs to fish is really skewed. Whereas on Party, I think the ratio of regs to fish is a bit better in favor of there being more fish in the games. I think the same can be true. Same can be said for for the 600 NL games. But I started moving to stars when Party had talk of upping the rake on these mid-stage teams, which would have been, yeah, would have sucked for everyone. 810 suited, under the gun. We're 150 BB deep with the fish led on. I mean, the fish in their position, so it kind of gives us more incentive for playing pots with him. Table seems to be playing pretty tightly. There's a short stack to our left in early position who's kind of not really going to be able to play back against us much. So I think we should definitely be opening this hand here, as well as hands like 9-Jack and probably Queen 9 suited. So let's see. We are facing the 3-bet by New York. We're not really sure about what type of hands he can have here. His 3-bet's not particularly big. I don't know if that should lead us to believe that he's quite strong or if he's quite weak. We actually don't know. Over 77 hands, he's got a 3-bet of 8, but that's not really helping us that much of such a small sample. What we can assume is that he's probably not going to be turning some of his weaker type hands pre-flop into bluffs, so we don't expect him to have, a hand like suited 2-gappers or some bad broadways that he didn't want to call. He's most likely calling all of those. I'm talking about the Queen 10 and the King Jack type hands. So it could be a wide range of pocket pairs, maybe like 9s up, and then some good broadways. Against that range, we'd be calling 24 here to see a total pot of what's going to be 78. We're going to have just under a PSR of about 10, which means we may get into some tricky type situations with the pair. We can't immediately stack up with top pair when the stack's this deep. I think our best goal here pre-flop is just to call and to capitalize on this player not being too particularly strong post-flop. So that means we're going to be able to realize an equity in the pot far more often. In this type of situation here, when we're faced with a bet, I'm far happier calling one and then evaluating on the turn against a weak player who we expect to just one and done these flops and not really have too many bluffs in his range on later streets. And by that nature, we realize our equity in the pot far more frequently than we would do against a more aggressive player who's more likely to put us into tough spots. So I think with flopping a pair here in a backdoor straight draw and a backdoor flush draw, calling is definitely the way to go. We stick with our initial plan. If we face any more pressure on the turn, we can remove a fair chunk of bluffs from his range and kind of make a safe fold. Obviously, we get shoved on here, and there's no reason why we should ever be calling there. We just have reason to believe that he's got a strong hand all the time. Table 2, I adjust my 3-bet size a bit bigger to account for our stacks. We're at 125 BBs. I don't think it's too important at the steps, actually. I don't think the big blind or 2 makes that much of a difference. It does, however, slightly affect Blue Friday's calling range. He should be a bit less inclined to put money in the pot with the weaker type broadways, because stacking off just suddenly starts to become a tiny bit more worse when you get deeper. Sorry, should I say stacking off becomes a tiny bit more worse with those broadways like the Ace-Jack offsuit or King 10 suited or something at that stack depth. But I still wouldn't fault anyone for calling. I don't think it's that deep that it's going to be tragic. Here I'm seeing myself do something that I really don't do often anymore. That's 4-bit bluffing someone in position. The thing is, I don't think people's bluff ranges, or should we say air ranges, are going to be too wide out of position for the most part. Most people are merging their their 3-bet ranges pre-flop. Or I shouldn't say most people, but some people are merging their 3-bet ranges pre-flop. And just because we 4-bet someone doesn't mean they're necessarily going to fold a hand like King Queen if they did 3-bet it. So they can just end up shoving on us anyway, thinking that there's a good chance that we're going to fold pre-flop. Yeah, so in these situations, I think we should just. I really don't think we should be 4-bet folding in position, especially at 100 BBs. Once you get deeper and people's nut range starts to narrow, then you can find some profit in 4-bet folding in position. But I think just too often here we're just going to get shoved on. In these positions we should just be looking to call or fold with most our range. And 4-betting your strong hands is fine because people will still shove on you fairly likely anyway. Table 3, I missed what happened, but most likely by the looks of the pot, I have open pre-flop, check back the flop, and I'm not sure if I put a bet in here. 63, how much did I make it? Maybe I did. I think I put a bet in the turn or I called a bet, can't remember. Anyway, pot controlling that flop, it's fine. Again, his range is going to be pretty tight in that position. We're going to get a lot of respect. We're going to get a lot of folds when we see bet that flop from opening an early position. So I think we're value cutting ourselves slightly. I think checking back is fine, and just trying to get a bet or two in on later street is perfectly acceptable. King Jack offsuit in the bottom right, I call versus a button open. With 150 BBs again, King Jack offsuit is going to play far better as a call, and it is a 3-bet. We could be looking to call the turn. However, he checked an ace 3-3. He checked that back. I mean, people are just bluffing at that so wide that maybe he's just checking back a weak ace because he thinks there's a better way of extracting value with it. I don't expect him to have too much air by the turn after he's checked back that flop basically. So I resist the urge to take a stab at it, or to call him down with a pretty good king high. King 9 offsuit. I think that's. I fold that in the top right in the small blind versus the big blind. I don't have any hands on who's your granny. I have no reason to believe that player is going to be 3-betting me super wide. I think the hand play is fine. I think it's at the. I think it's at the point where I draw the line. I'm probably folding King 8 offsuit, but King 9 offsuit I think is good enough to be a raise there. However, I don't fault people for folding a lot in the small blind. It's just people are just calling really really wide in the big blind and then just making your life a nightmare by playing the pot in position on you with relatively deep stacks. Pretty interesting situation here. Actually, not really. I thought Lagtard had limped the button, but he's minned it. I think we can fold there. There is some part of my hand range there that I'm going to be bluffing with. Again, I don't think 4-bet folding in position is too effective. But if I did elect to do it, if I did elect to call 4-bet there, I would have some offsuit ace-x hand that's just going to block a ton of his combos that he can shove at us with. So it looks like someone on the bottom of the table got stacks in, missed the hand though. Fortunately, I can't rewind. New York made a really small 3-bet against Civic fans open. Fairly interesting. Civic fan made it 12, New York made it 20. And then he just overbets the flop. It looks like he's playing his hands pretty face up. All his actions kind of lead me to believe that he had a strong hand in that spot. It's the type of way you'd expect a fish to play a strong hand. King Queen offsuit should definitely be a raise here, even though we're out of position. New York is just going to be putting a fair chunk of change in the pot and then just folding it later to any aggression, which is where we essentially make all our money from. So building a pot here with hands that have potential good bluff equity and good potential to make strong pairs is obviously great. I mean, this board hits his pre-flop calling range fairly wide. I'm not really sure what to make of his limp. However, if he was limping something like low suited aces and pocket pairs, low pocket pairs, then this board really benefits that range. He could be super wide here. He could have a whole lot of overcards, which he may or may not fold. However, by the looks of it, I check and he bets 96, so he most likely actually had a hand there, and we didn't have to put any money in against that hand, which is a good result for us. Again, queen 6 suited here. We can be looking to 3-bet here for the same ideas as we did in the beginning of the video. In actual fact, we have a bit more incentive to 3-bet just because the stacks are a bit deeper with Larry D, and it kind of prevents him from playing back at us as light as he would when we were 100 BBs. So I think a 3-bet is more favorable there, and that works. So yeah, for us. 10-jack offsuit. It's a bit too weak to call here on the top left. I think we can be looking to 3-bet this pre-flop and have it as part of our 3-betting range. Normally using hands that are just too weak to call to use as part of your bluffing range is a good game theory approach to building a 3-betting range. When you're in position on these pots, you're not forced to worry about the reverse implied odds of your hand so much as you would be when you're out of position. So in that type of sense, you can really be looking to construct your range in such a way without having to worry about such negative implications as you would find yourself in out of position. Looks like I'm pulling up some notes I had that have been automatically made for me with NoteCaddy. I'm actually not using the program at the moment. It seems like NoteCaddy seems like a great program. However, I need to spend a good amount of time building all the conditions that I really want. A lot of the conditions that come with the program are quite useless for me. They're not noting the type of information that I want, and although I've bought the software and I thought it was cool initially, I really need to take the time and customize all the type of notes it can make. I think it's a very powerful program. I think the developers have put a lot of work into it and have made a great product. It's just up to the user to make the most of it. I've gone ahead and c-bet this ace-5-8 two-tone board up to 3-betting pre. Fairly interesting turn card now. We have some showdown equity. We might have been killed on the flop by 8-9 type hand, by a pocket sevens, by I don't know, two diamonds that might not attempt to bluff us on the river. I'm not sure. I don't think we fold any better by betting this turn. I think we can charge him for some draws. That seems very thin. We don't expect him to have many unpaired type diamond hands that he could have pre-flop, and a lot of those hands are just going to gain more equity on the turn and probably shove on us if we do decide to bet. I think here in this spot, it's a fairly strange, it's a fairly awkward spot to find ourselves in. But we should just be trying to get the showdown, and hopefully he's not going to turn those weaker hands into bluffs. We're faced with a bet here again. I don't think he's too wide pre-flop. I don't think he has too many missed diamond draws. 7-8 just got there. Pocket 7's got there. Pocket 10's got there. If he peeled with all those hands in the flop, we have to fold here. We actually need to be right like a third of the time. I just don't see how you can have that much air in his range to justify a call here, especially that he can be betting pretty much any ace he had called with after we check back the turn. He's queen raising it up. What else can I tell you guys about Party? I didn't play on there for very long. I've mainly been playing on Ladbrokes actually, but ever since they created those anonymous tables, the games have really gone to shit. There's either turbo games going, which are ridiculously fast. I don't know how anyone actually can play a turbo table whilst playing even one of the table. And now a lot of people are playing the anonymous tables. I see that, was it Boda? Boda was incorporating anonymous tables now. I really hope that doesn't become popular, because I think that'll really destroy poker for me. If all the sites get these anonymous tables, I really find them stupid. The problem is though, if player 2, because all players obviously don't have names, so it's player 1 to 6. If player 2 leaves the table and then another player joins, it doesn't say player 7, which it probably should do, because then at least you know that someone has joined the table. It says player 2, and if you're playing a few tables, any information that basically you don't know if someone's left the table and then another player has joined in their place. So even if you did gain some information while playing in the session, there's a good chance that you're actually using that information to make reads on someone who's not even there anymore if you haven't been watching the table, which is incredibly frustrating too. Ace-9 offsuits, 3-betting the cutoff versus this mid-position open. We've been hammering on Larry a fair bit. I think it's fine though. I mean, combating 3-betting at 100 BBs is, I suppose it's easier than doing it deeper, but I mean, it's tough, man. He's just probably playing a lot of tables. I think we should just be fairly wide here. One thing to note is that as we start 3-betting against the earlier raises, our nut portion of our range is going to go down, and so following that, we're going to have to reduce our air portion. So I'm not too wide here, but these offsuit type aces do a good job of 3-betting with their blockers, and it's not too often we get a call in a way pre-flop, so chances of reverse domination are quite rare.